Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So today we're doing prep masking and spray painting on this Alfa Romeo Guiletta. So we've got the rear door, which has been repaired, obviously, already been primed up, and then we've got a front bumper as well. I won't be including much, if any, of the footage of the front bumper. However, yes, we've got the two blends as well. So I started off by getting my color. So what you saw me with at the start was the spectrophotometer that basically takes a couple of photos of the car. I then link that up to my computer. I can then scan the color database for the best match to this color. So 9 times out of 10 the computer will actually shade the color. So the original formula might have, for instance, 100 grams of bright red and then 50 grams of pearl, just for simple calculations, and then the computer says, well, no, we need 40 grams of the pearl but 120 grams of the bright red. So that's a very simple way of putting it, but I guess it's an easy way to understand it. So basically a lot of the time the computer will shade it ever so slightly for me, and 9 times out of 10 we get something that is above 90%. I usually do give a color a very slight tint though, so it turns out with this one here, it was a little bit dark on one of the angles, so I did actually add a little bit more of all 3 of the pearls that were in this color. So there was 3 pearls in this color. There was a red, a gold, and a white pearl in this color. I added a little bit more of each, and I didn't actually even do another spray out. I was confident that it was pretty close anyway, so I just thought all I'd need to do is lighten it up ever so slightly and we'd be all good, which we were. So if you hang around to the end of the video, you'll get a look at the car once it's all finished off. But from here on in, we're doing the prep work next. So yeah, this car had been primed up by my apprentice Alan, and then it got ripped out of the paint shop, which doesn't usually happen. I mean, sometimes it does if we need room, and that's exactly why it got sent out. So the plastic was ripped off the car and then yeah, sent outside because we needed to get another car in. So when I did bring it back in, I did decide to recover it with plastic again, just to keep all the dust off of the car when I'm doing my prep work. And obviously, because we've got a fully primed rear door on this car, I'm going to need to open that door as I'm doing my prep work, and that is why I decided to put some plastic over those door openings so that I'm not going and covering the interior of the poor customer's car with sanding dust. I wouldn't be too impressed if someone did that to my car, so I'm not going to go and do that to someone else's car. Seriously, the amount of people that do just cover other people's car in bog dust and sanding dust is atrocious, and it just makes me put my face inside my palm. But on the other hand, I'm never too shy to tell someone off for doing something stupid like that. I'll just say, mate, what the hell are you doing? That's somebody's car. Don't get dust all through their car. You know, they're here to get their car repaired, not to get it all filthy. I've even heard stories of detailers or even just apprentices not doing their job properly and getting cars so full of dust that the vents, so the air vents, are completely full of dust. Then the owner's gone and got their car back, jumped in their car after the repair in their nice suit, turned the air conditioner on, and because the air conditioner settings weren't completely gone through when the person cleaned it, it's actually puffed out a big lot of dust over the customer. So that's another thing to keep in mind, apprentices. If you're ever cleaning a car that's had a reasonable sized job on it, it could be worth going through those air conditioner and heater settings. So pretty much all you do is put the heater onto full and then just run through all the different settings, and if there is any dust in there, it should blow out once you do that, and then continue on cleaning the car. See, Gunny isn't just a detailer hater. I've got a few tips for the detailers as well. But either way, continuing on with the job, I've already gone and blocked it down with 180 grit, and now I'm sanding it down with the Orbital sander and some 400 grit. I used to go 180 to 320, but these days I'll just go 180 straight up to 400, and that's just because I ended up finding when I would go to 180 to 320, I would just cut through on some of those edges a little bit much, because the 320 is just a little bit too coarse. I mean, as I say, you can use it, but yeah, just be careful if you do go straight from 180 to 320. In between each stage when I'm doing my prep work, I always like to get the high pressure blower and blow all the dust off. I can then have a good close look at the panel, because at the end of the day you can put that guide coat down, but you can also miss sanding scratches even when you are using the guide coat, especially being that I did use the 180 grit sandpaper when I was blocking it down. If you're to miss one of those and then spray over it, you'll see these very deep sanding scratches in the finished product. So yeah, so I've found anywhere from 600 to even 1000 grit is where you want to finish your prep work. I mean, some people do go right up to 1000 grit. I don't think it's quite necessary. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's not really necessary to go quite that far with your prep work. Yeah, some people do it, and if you want to do it, that's fine. Just find what works for you at the end of the day. But what I'm using here is just some 600 grit. So obviously notice that I sanded all the primer edges on that rear door by hand first. And that was with a piece of 500 grit on the softback sanding sponge, and I'll then go over the top of all of that with 600 grit. So 600 grit on my blend panels, 600 grit on the paint panels as well. So this door here, that's 600 grit, and then I'll be finishing off with one of the Superfine pads, which is something that I've started using in, I don't know, maybe the last 6 to 8 months. It's something that I never used to use, but one of the guys that I work with has been using them for a few years now, and I finally just thought, hey, I'll give them a go. And I'm like, man, they're better than what I remember them to be, because I actually used to use these Superfine pads right back in the day. Like, I used to use them early 2000s when I was an apprentice, and I never actually used to use them for blend panels, but I used to use them as like a final sand on the primer areas. So yeah, I've been going back to them, and they're great. They're really quite fast, and they do a very thorough job on the blend panels and even on the paint panels as well. So I recommend giving them a shot. I'll do my best to remember including a link to where to get them in the description down below. I got these ones here from in Perth at Park Automotive. They sell them here to us in Perth. They're our local paint distributor, and I've actually also found a link where to get them online. So if you're in Perth, you can always go to Park Automotives, but if you're around the rest of the world, you can check that link that I'll be including in the description of the videos. So that's all the prep work done, obviously, giving it a good blow down before I got it into the booth. Then we're going to do our masking stages now. So I find the masking a little bit difficult to narrate. I mean, it's monkey see, monkey do. That's the way I say it. Like, there's not much I can say. Like, I'm putting pieces of tape down. I can't really elaborate on it much more than that. So I'm going to put some tunes on for a couple of minutes. If that doesn't interest you, you can skip the masking stage and go up to around 11 minutes or 11 minutes 20 seconds. So that's our masking all done, and we're now wiping the panels down thoroughly with some Prepsol, otherwise known as wax and grease remover. So yeah, just making sure we do the blend panels first. If you wipe over your prime sections, what can end up happening is that you drag some of the dust that's left inside the scratches. You can drag that over your blend panels, and you don't want that, because basically that will end up under your clear, because on your blend panel all there's going to be is no color there. Well, not over most of it anyway, maybe only over half of that panel is going to be any color. So if there is anything between the panel and your clear coat, you're going to be seeing it in your final results. So all that aside, I gave it a good tack rag down after Prepsoling, and then I'm putting some 599 down. So as I mentioned before, this was a bit of an older job that's been sitting in the video editor for probably about 6 to 8 months. I never got around to doing the narration on it. So I edited this video like 6 months ago, and I'm finally just getting around to doing the voiceover. So in this video, I was using solvent-based paint. That's why I made a quick mention to that, because my regular viewers will know that I've actually moved over to waterborne paint relatively recently. So there's a few minor differences in the applications of the paint on this video than the usual. So yeah, Standox solvent base coat, and just you put the 599 down first, which is basically clear or transparent base coat. It just helps with the blend. That's pretty much all it does. It does fill in some of the sanding scratches, and it also helps with the blend. So you'll probably notice straight away that with the solvent, it doesn't cover quite as well. But in saying that, it's not that bad. You know, that's 2 coats here. This is the second coat. Putting them on nice and heavy to get that coverage. And yeah, 2.5 coats and we're just about there. Obviously letting each coat dry in between each coat, give it a few minutes, blowing it down with the air, and then we'll apply it. So it's wet on dry rather than wet on wet, which is how we spray the Stando Blues waterborne paint. And it's been so long since I sprayed this, I can't even remember why I was using my Bellaria. There would have been a good reason back then. I was probably wanting to get the footage, maybe even for my top 10 video, but I love this gun. It's a totally brilliant gun. I probably don't use it as much as I should for how good the gun is, but yeah, it's a brilliant little all-rounder gun. You can get it in many different fluid tip sizes, so I think it goes right down to like 0.8 or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, when I was doing a bit of research on this gun, I was personally blown away at the amount of fluid tip sizes that they actually have for this gun. But I think it's something like a good 10 different tip sizes, and I think it goes like right up to 2.5 mil or something like that. So if you haven't already seen it for whatever reason, you should go and check out my top 10 spray gun video. There's 2 of them. There's an updated one which I've done this year, 2020. So yeah, this gun here got 2nd position, which I stand by. I think it's a brilliant gun, especially for the prices. It's limited by the air caps, but apart from that, it's a brilliant little all-rounder. When you go to the Pro Lite, you've got a good 4 or 5 air caps to choose from, and they're all interchangeable. You don't have as many tip sizes though, so yeah, you could take that as a win for the Bellaria or a win for the Pro Lite. I guess that's entirely up to you. But here we go with the Pro Lite. This is the Gunman edition, the first edition of the Gunman editions. They've actually done an update of them recently, which is totally cool. Like, they've got these green ones and red ones, but I didn't even have them back in this video, so I couldn't use them obviously. But yeah, so look, at the end of the day, it's the same as all the other Pro Lights. They all do spray the same. You've still got all the same fluid tips, air caps and all that. This was just a limited edition, so thanks to everyone who did go and buy themselves one of these. Any of my merch too, I do appreciate anyone buying one of those spray suits like you see in this video too, and yeah, stickers and all that stuff. It's just really cool. I do appreciate the loyal followers that I do have of this channel. So continuing on, just giving that base coat a good tack rag down. That's one thing that I don't do anywhere near as much of now I'm spraying waterborne. I find that the base coat's a lot cleaner. I think that's partly because the the solvent-based base coat dries a lot quicker, so it can kind of start drying as you're applying. Like you're spraying it on the door, and the overspray will sort of hit those blend panels, but it will be dry before it hits the panel, so it will actually land on there as dust. So what you're tack ragging off is a bit of a light layer of dust. Whereas because the waterborne is, well, it's water, you know, it's made out of water, it's the main ingredient in it, it'll stay wet for longer, so that by the time it hits the panel, it's still wet, so it will melt in. So that's, I believe, one of the reasons that you'll actually get cleaner jobs when you are spraying the waterborne. Well, in saying that, it's easier to get cleaner jobs. You can still do it with solvent, as you'll probably see in this video here. This was clean as, like, there was only maybe 1 or 2 bits of dust in each panel. So yeah, at the end of the day, like, I spent probably, yeah, the most part of 20 years spraying solvent-based paints, and yeah, I can't really say that I dislike it, but at the end of the day, I know that there's a few limitations of it, and there's a few downsides of it if you're not careful. So the clear coat I'm using is the Standox Standard Clear. That's a 4:1 clear using the VOC hardener. So it's one of the cheaper clears that Standox do have. In fact, I believe it's the cheapest Standox branded clear. But for what it is, it's a very user-friendly, very good quality for the price clear coat. I do enjoy using it. It's really easy to use. It's not too thick, so it's closer to an MS clear, but it uses a VOC hardener. I was even told by one of the paint reps that it's a hybrid. It's not like MS, but it's not quite HS. It's sort of like in between. So you can tack and whack it. You can go bang, bang, one coat after another. Even the paint reps say that you can do it, but they say more likely to do something like that, like on a bumper cover. So what I will do when I'm clearing a job like this, so obviously it's the 3 panels on the side of the car here, and then I had a front bumper to do as well. So what I did here was put the first coat on the side. I then went down to the bumper. I tack and whack the bumper. That might take me 3 to 4 minutes, and I'll come straight back to these side panels. So technically you've given it a very short flash off time, but you haven't actually stopped. So you haven't, I don't like standing around waiting for paint to dry. I usually like to keep myself busy. So once I walk in there to clear a job, I'm usually not walking out until it's finished. Again, I'm going to just put some tunes on for the rest of this video. I'm pretty sure I've covered most of what I wanted to in this video, and I'm glad I did get this video done. As I said, it's been sitting in the editor for so long. I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone for watching, and if you'd like to support the channel further, you're more than welcome to go over and check out some of the merchandise we've got. My personal favourite is those spray suits, so they're a good quality Colad branded spray suit with the Gunman logo on it. There's also hats, drink coolers, hoodies and t-shirts, so be sure to go over and check out the link in the description if you are interested. All that aside, I'd just like to say a big thanks for watching, and that is enough to support the channel. But as I say, if you'd like to go the next step, then be sure to check out some of that merchandise. Thanks for watching, and until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out.